The 2017 film Wonder Woman received critical praise, made over $800 million, and was a game changer for the DC Extended Universe. DC fans were thrilled to see the Amazonians' two oldest villains on the big screen, Dr. Poison and the war god Ares. The 2020 sequel, Wonder Woman 1984, will introduce Diana's arch-nemesis, Cheetah, and one of her most iconic villains, Maxwell Lord. Since she's battled Nazis, terrorists, superpowered madmen, gods, and titans, Wonder Woman has one of the most diverse rogues galleries. This makes the question of who she will next face all the more interesting. Will it be the Firstborn? Will Zeus make an appearance? Darkseid perhaps? Is there an actor emo enough to actually play Hades? But there are some baddies that you can bet your life will never make an appearance in a DC movie. Not even a cameo. Not even if there were 300 Wonder Woman films. And at this point, there really might be. When you churn out a new villain for a superhero to face every month for 80 years, a couple of them are gonna be stinkers. I'm Zoe from What Culture, and here are 11 ridiculous Wonder Woman villains you won't believe. Number 11, Blue Snowman. Many superheroes have an ice-themed villain, and Wonder Woman is, unsurprisingly, absolutely no different. In 1946, she battled a scientist called Burner Brilliant, who tried to create blue snow, a material that could freeze anything it touched. When she converted the material into a snow gun, she became evil for some reason and took on the guise of a blue snowman. Really, she seemed pretty similar to Mr. Freeze, until her story started introducing aliens. While the blue snowman battled the heroes of Earth, an alien called Vartok suddenly appeared. Brilliant was intoxicated by the extraterrestrial scent and instantly fell in love with him. Instead of returning these affections, Vartok's had his planet-eating pet devour her. I've thought about this a whole lot. And I still don't know how you start with something as simple as a supervillain who shoots ice, and you end up with a story where she falls in love with an alien before being eaten by another alien. Number 10, Angleman. Angelo Bend became a supervillain who was obsessed with crimes with unbeatable angles. Because of his motif, he took on the low-key hilarious title of Angleman. One of his first schemes was to use a mechanical brain to bring inanimate objects to life. The first thing he brought to life with this device was a cigar and made it beat up a gangster. In the same story, he used the mechanical brain to animate sunken ship masks at a shipyard to attack Wonder Woman. At this point, you might ask, what does living cigars and animated ship masks have to do with angles? The answer is absolutely nothing. So why is he called the Angleman? Because his choice of weapon is a triangular ruler, which he calls the Angler. Now, don't get me wrong, the Angler itself is really powerful. Not only does it allow the supervillain to teleport, but he can use it to warp time and space. Number 9, the Crimson Centipede. In one story, the goddess of love, Aphrodite, tells the god of war Ares that no man can equal Wonder Woman's ability in combating crime and injustice. To prove her wrong, Ares says he'll create a champion to destroy her, proving females are the weaker sex. Since Ares is a literal god, his power is virtually unlimited. Of the countless creatures he could conjure up to defeat the Amazonian, he decides a gigantic centipede is definitely his best bet. And in all fairness, Ares' champion, the Crimson Centipede, is pretty tough to beat. He's got 16 arms, 12 legs, and is armed with 8 guns. So fighting him was never going to be a picnic. After being defeated time and time again by Wonder Woman, why did Ares think this guy was going to be the guy to put her down for good? Number 8, Inversion, the Inside Out Man. In this story, The Inside Out Man, Diana summons her jet, only to see her vehicle being blasted by a laser, which turns it inside out. Tracking the location of this laser, Diana finds the culprit, a terrifying being called Inversion. He explains that he was a scientist who tried to create a teleportation device. When he tested it on himself, it teleported his organs onto the outside of his body, including his brain and heart. He somehow survived and put on a pressure suit, which he had just lying around, to stay alive. When he mentions that the Justice League have a teleportation device, Diana assumes he's going to use it to revert to normal. Nope. Instead, Inversion desires to turn everyone on Earth inside out. You know, for reasons. Luckily, Diana manages to use a machine to dematerialize Inversion and inserts him into a containment unit. She gives it to the Amazonians, hoping they can cure him. Which they never do. He was absent from the comic for 40 years until he made a cameo in a 2018 story. Number 7, Minister Blizzard. It's possible to turn the silliest villains into deep, developed characters. Thanos' plan of I want to destroy half the universe sounds silly when it's in the comics. But when Thanos explains why he wants to do this in the film, Thanos is seen as more of a sympathetic villain. What I'm saying is, with the right spin, any villain can be kinda cool. Except Minister Blizzard. He just sucks. If you think his name is stupid, his origin story sounds like it was written by a child. Blizzard, that's his real name, was the Prime Minister of Iceberg Land in the North Pole, which was ruled by Princess Snowman and populated by icicle men. Although he loved the princess, she only had eyes for Prince Polar. Blizzard believed he could win her over by freezing all of Manhattan and presenting the frozen city to her as a gift. It's also worth mentioning that Mr. Blizzard debuted 2 years after Wonder Woman's other ice-themed villain, the Blue Snowman, asking a question of how many ice villains do we need? We already have Mr. Freeze and Captain Cold right now. Wonder Woman fights 2 of them and they do the exact same thing. Number 6, Paperman. Horace Throstle has the ability to turn into paper. How did he obtain such an ability? Well, when in doubt, the writers went with the "he fell into a vat of chemicals" explanation, which, to be fair, did work for the Joker. Throstle was making a special paper for the military before he fell into the vat producing it. Wonder Woman, who is at the plant in her civilian identity, shows concern for Throstle when he climbs out of said vat. Mistaking her compassion for romance, Throstle goes insane when Wonder Woman rejects his advances. Using his powers, he can turn into a paper aeroplane, a ball of paper, or camouflage himself in paper. And unsurprisingly, he uses paper puns like, "I'm here to make some front page news myself," and "paper can cut," which would be wasted potential if he didn't. Beautifully, his debut story concludes with him dying by falling into a printing press. Rest in peace, Paperman. Number 5, Wade Dazzle. In another day of fighting crime, Wonder Woman came across a robotic duplicate of herself and battled it outside the United Nations. Diana managed to trace the android to a theme park called Dazzle Land, which was run by the famous children's author, Uncle Wade Dazzle. Although Wade Dazzle has a reputation for being a caring businessman, Diana learns he's using the park to suck the life force out of its occupants. Why, you may ask? It turns out that Wade Dazzle is an android, and the real Dazzle is cryogenically frozen due to suffering a lethal illness. The Dazzle robot is sapping the attendees' energy to keep the real Dazzle alive. The robot believes that Diana's power could be used to cure Dazzle and make him immortal. Luckily, Diana manages to destroy her doppelganger, as well as the Wade Dazzle android, before escaping. Number 4, Mouseman. Mouseman is a criminal who can control mice and shrink himself down to the size of a rodent. Not only is this character ridiculous, but he also has an annoying habit of saying "squee" in every sentence. Despite being 2 inches tall, Mouseman manages to overpower Wonder Woman in their first encounter. And how does he celebrate this victory? By forcing the Amazonian to run in a hamster wheel. This was the best he could come up with. Obviously, Diana does manage to defeat him, because it would be terribly embarrassing if she didn't. When she grabs him, he pointed out that he couldn't be put in jail because they couldn't find a prison small enough to hold Mouseman. Taking this into account, Wonder Woman thought it would be sensible to lock Mouseman inside a bird cage. Although he eventually escaped, Mouseman has been easily beaten time and time again. Number 3, Dr. Domino. During a Miss UN contest, a group of terrorists barged in and kidnapped several diplomats. Wonder Woman followed the criminals to their freighter to find their leader, Dr. Domino. The Mad Doctor apprehended the diplomats because one of them knew the formula for a bacterial cloud burst, which Domino intended to use to destroy his enemies. The weirdest thing about this plan is that Domino reveals a nuclear bomb on his ship, which makes you ask why he doesn't just use that instead, or why he goes through all this effort when he has the most powerful weapon in the world. The only thing less creative than his evil scheme is his appearance. His head is a domino piece. He looks so stupid, it's impossible to take him seriously. Number 2, Fireworks Man. In 1963, Marvel was dominating the comic industry by creating superheroes like Iron Man, Wasp, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, the Avengers, and the X-Men. And what was DC doing at the time? One of their heavy hitters, Wonder Woman, was battling baddies made out of fireworks. So how did the dreaded Fireworks Man come to be? Well, during an experiment, an unnamed chemist managed to accidentally turn his entire body into a combustible energy, similar to fireworks. Although he sounds ridiculous, and he is, Fireworks Man is incredibly powerful. Underestimating his strength, Wonder Woman was blasted into space by the entity's combustible power. As fireworks ascended into space to finish her off, he was hit by a meteor and perished. Number 1, Giganta. But Zoe, I hear you say, Giganta is just a woman who can grow and shrink at will. There's nothing weird about that. And while I'd love to agree, Giganta is all the weirder for the fact that very few people seem to know the absolutely insane truth about her. Because when Giganta first appeared in comics in 1997, she was a gorilla. A very unfortunate gorilla, in fact, because she was subjected to an experimental treatment by the dying scientist Dr. Doris Zool that switched the brains of the pair, leaving Zool in Giganta's body. Not satisfied with this, Doris would then transfer her consciousness into a human strong woman named Olga, but keep the name Giganta, presumably as a reminder of how messed up her backstory actually is. As such, every time you see the now relatively ordinary Giganta on page, you're forced to remember that this woman optionally spent time as a gorilla and then loved it so much, she made it her name. And even more offensively, she now has the absolute nerve to be a normal character. And that was our list. Think we missed a weird and wild villain? Let us know down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I've been Zoe from What Culture, and you can tell me about more magical gorillas on my Twitter, @Zemascal. Thanks for watching.